What's going on, guys? It's the Bigs Podcast, episode number 204. And today, prior to our trip into the playoffs, we're going to have a check in with the commissioner here. So, my co host this afternoon is, in fact, the reason for this league and the reason within this league. He's a three-time champion and my best friend, my roommate, the commissioner of our great league, Ben Nisman. Benny, how you feeling today, my friend?
Feeling great, obviously. Very excited that the playoffs are upon us, Joe. It's been an incredibly intense 21 weeks that we've had so far. Still one more week to go. It's gone by in a blink of an eye, and I'm just really stoked to just get the whole thing finished up and find out who our champion is going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be a wild finish to an unbelievably great season. There are some things we want to talk about here before we dive into each and every team in the hunt. The one main thing that we wanted to talk about, and we've talked about this a lot off air, is a change to the trade rule that may be coming here in the future. What exactly are we looking at? What are you thinking going forward for trade?
I think it's a really fair question. I can't even definitively say that there's a resolution or an exact uh, solution on how we can best go about it going forward. What I can tell you is that there should be some kind of change. Obviously, what we have going, it's not a horrible situation, but I feel like it's something that can be tweaked and always done better. Um, there have been a couple of members that have been interested in the notion of going to a vote, putting every trade to a vote. And there are obviously a good amount of benefits, and I'm certainly open to doing something like that, as long as it's a good system. Firstly, the first thing you'd have to decide on is how many votes would be required in order to veto a trade or to let it go through. Is the number four? Is the number five? Is the number six? I don't know what the answer is. I think that's something that we'd probably have to figure out as a group. My issue with there even being this plan to do a democratic system, a voting system for it, is firstly, everyone has their own interests and their own intentions when these trades are going through. I have to face this guy next week, so I don't want this trade to go through. This guy has to face this guy, so I'm totally happy with it going through. Things like this, where we're all going to naturally be biased, understandably, because we have a vested interest if we have these opponents up on our schedule. That's the first issue. So we have to decide what's a good number, what's a fair number. Um, there are certain guys in our league that will just let everything go through, like they don't care whether, and we have to consider that they're always a yes. So if that's the case, and we always every let's say if we have 16 people and we know two are always going to be okay with every trade. Now we're talking about 14 other people and we have to figure out, well, obviously 12 because two are going to be involved in the trade. So now it's complicated, Joe. So right there we have to figure out what's a good number. The second thing that we have an issue is since 2020, we've created a time constraint for these trades that there's a Tuesday deadline. If a trade is agreed on Monday before the first pitch is in and thrown, I put it through right away.
Mhm.
So how do we deal with something like that when we have to wait for people to cast their vote? I mean, I could be blowing up their phone, but if they're at work or they have something else going on with family, there's nothing they can really do about it. They can't really sit there and analyze a trade thoroughly. Who knows? They just be like, fine, just put it through, just put it through. You know what I mean? And there's not
Mhm.
really too much commitment and focus to how much that trade could affect the league. So, if we made the decision that, you know what, forget about time constraints. Now, every single trade that's agreed upon always goes through the following week. So we'll never ever have a trade that goes through on the day because we'll always give ourselves time for everybody to vote and then go through the next week. It's complicated. It's just not so easy.
Mhm.
You could say, let's just put it to a vote and like that's it. But there's so many more parameters that go through it. So I again, I don't know what the best solution is. I'm certainly open for discussion with everybody, but we have to consider all these little possibilities because we want it to be right, you know, and if the if the rule of in 2019 and prior that, hey, I reach out to the opponents of the trade participants and see if they're okay with it. We know that didn't work eventually, right?
Mhm.
Then we needed the time constraint rule so that we know that something on Thursday couldn't go through. Then we left it to me to decide whether the trade is fair or not. There's always going to be someone that's unhappy with
Mhm.
it and they don't want the deal to go through. It happened in 23, it happened in 24, it's happened this year. It'll continue to happen. So, it's it's a tough spot for me to be in. I'm okay with it. Like we can still do it this way if we're all happy with it, but it just doesn't seem like this has been the best system. And I'm always open to changing to make the league better. That's what it's all about. So if a democratic system is the best way to go about it, let's do it. But let's make sure it's done right. Let's make sure it's the
Mhm.
right way to handle it. Let's make sure it's the appropriate amount of votes. Let's make sure there's plenty of time for the votes go through. Like what or maybe the democratic system isn't the way to go about it. Maybe there's another way to do it. Whatever it is, I'd love to come to a compromise and figure out what the best way to be is because at this point, like as long as the league is getting better and everyone's okay with it, I have no problem with changing it.
So let's hear from you guys after you listen to this podcast. Let us know either in the comments, via text message, email, whatever it is, however you want to communicate with us. Let us know what you have to say on the subject. We currently have a system in place that's been going since 2020, and there have been some issues this year brought up. There have been issues in years past. So maybe it's time for a change. Let us hear your voice. Let us hear what you have to say on the subject. What is the best way to go about this? We've laid out what the nuances are to a democratic voting system. So let's hear from you. Let's hear what you guys have to say. Benji, it is week 22. You have locked up a playoff spot. You are looking for a playoff bye. How are you feeling after 21 weeks, my friend?
I guess I can't really complain, Joe, considering when I looked at this team after draft day, you looked at this team after draft day, several teams did, and they said it looks subpar. The outfield looks subpar. I'm just not sure if the starting pitching is there. The infield looks nice, I guess, if you think Arenado could turn it around, and you think Tovar will have a similar year as the one prior. If you think Arise is as good as three straight batting titles, yada yada. Um, Bear in mind that I was vomiting for 2 hours prior to this draft, up until 15 minutes before. So the fact that I'm in this spot is nothing short of shocking. Um, the fact that I held first place as long as I had, I, I'm very very surprised that it's been this tough. But now we're at this point where yeah, this buy is extremely important to me, and even though it is a 9 game lead, believe me, and the league should know that this is extremely intense for me right now. So, um, as far as how this league has shaken up for 21 weeks, it has really been incredible. Like, as far as what the managers have put in, as far as different streaks that different managers have put together, the development of certain managers that we can get into, how they've really, really improved their game from 24 to 25, incredible. So, this has been one of those seasons where like I've just been like mouth open quite a bit in shock on Sundays on how certain teams have flipped four categories. A losing team has become a winning team, vice versa. Tons of upsets, and of course, a couple of incredible stories. And I would say that me being high up in the standings has been one of the premier stories this season in 2025, but arguably not the number one story. And we'll get into more of that as we go through the show.
Well, that does beg the question, Benji. What is the number one story in your opinion from the 2025 season, man?
Right now, it's been the race for the sixth spot. It's between three guys. Looks like it's between three guys. One guy that's been a staple playoff team, arguably the best pound for pound manager in our league, and Mike Haber fighting for that last spot right now on the outside looking in. Henry Collins, who has made it 2 years in a row, he joined the league in 2023, has never missed the playoffs. Here he is also on the outside looking in, but beyond developed manager at this point. Like the fact that he's, I can see it visibly. The fact that the way he goes about delegating his ads, the way he benches certain hitters and decides this is the better matchup, therefore I'm going to play this guy and sit arguably the better player, taking chances like that, extremely calculated decisions every time. That's been a huge story. And then, of course, the guy leading the charge for the sixth spot, Brian Lebo, my favorite manager who isn't me, a guy who is a practicing doctor when he's not playing fantasy baseball. Probably one of the busier schedules we have of all of our managers. Right now, sitting in the sixth seed, he's never made the playoffs in a full season. His first season was 2020. He did make the playoffs. He did beat Jimmy Dunlap in the first round and go to the semifinals, eventually losing to you in 2020. But this is the closest he has been to a playoff spot in a full season, and he just needs to close it out for one more week. If he can do it, if he is, in fact, the number 6 seed, and he is a playoff team this year, the number one story of this season is either Brian Lebo makes the playoffs or, dare I say it, Mike Haber missing the playoffs. And it's a shame because when you have so much success in this league for so long, you start having to one up yourself all the time, that you have to prove it to yourself. And that's what kind of frustrated me last year for myself, that just like being an over 500 team, but not making the playoffs just wasn't good enough because I had made the semifinals 3 years in a row. It's like, wow, what's wrong with Ben? He didn't make the playoffs this year. I guess he's not as good as we all thought. Well, I mean, it's just the law of averages and certain things happen. And alas, I was seventh place, not sixth place last year. But
Mm-hmm.
here we are. This is a new situation. And Mike Haber, who hasn't missed the playoffs in a full season since 2017. You want to count 2020, then count 2020. A lot of guys couldn't pull it through that were normally in because it was such a short season. We had divisions that year. It's a whole different thing. But I would say 2017, the last time Mike Haber really missed the postseason. If this really happens, it's an enormous story, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride here for the first 21 weeks. We've got an incredible group of guys that are fighting for this playoff spot here. Let's talk about these teams individually, and let's talk about. I want to include Frank in this one as well because he does have an interesting situation impending for him here in week 22. Let's kick it off with him. He does face Brian Lebo. He is, of course, 12 and a half games out of a playoff spot. So I don't foresee him making this run miraculously here in the final week to beat Brian by 13 and have Henry and Mike lose so that he ends up in the playoff race. That's not happening. But I think what is interesting here in week 22 is that he's got at least a mathematical opportunity to make it despite it being unrealistic.
Sure, I think once um he finished his week with me without a win, I think we kind of knew that was the math was so far against him as far as needing help
Mhm.
from Brian and Mike to play the middle and then him to soar through Bobby. So we kind of knew at that point that it was over. But he did what he had to in the weeks prior. He beat Ari, he beat Chris Levy. Those were 2 weeks that he needed to win in order for him to even be in the conversation. Um, Frank has had a pretty good solid year against opponents offensively. He's 12-9 in runs, 12-7 in doubles, 7-5 with 9 ties and triples, 9-10 in home runs with 2 ties, 11-10 in RBIs, 8-9 in stolen bases, 11-9 in walks, 9-12 in strikeouts, 8-9 in errors, 11-10 in average, and 12-9 on base. It's basically over 500 in every single category. So you can't ask for more than that as far as against opponents. On the pitching side, 9-12 in innings pitched, 8-6 in wins, 6-13 in losses, 5-14 in saves, 8-12 in home runs given up, 10-10 in walks given up, 12-9 in strikeouts, 9-12 in ERA, 12-9 in WHIP, 11-9 in RAP. So little more of a mixed bag, but I would say it's more on the under 500 scale as far as in the pitching side. So maybe that was part of the issue against opponents this year, that he just couldn't compete on the pitching side.
Yeah, it certainly goes to the fact that he lost Chris Sale for a period of time and now has lost Zach Wheeler here for the season. So his 1-2 punch at the top of the rotation really didn't give him a full season like he would have liked to. Add in the fact that he traded for guys like Eduardo Rodriguez, guys like Kevin Gossman, a couple of pitchers there to fortify his rotation, but not much to speak of on the bullpen. He traded away David Bednar. He traded away, I think that was the only reliever. Oh, he traded away Seth Halverson. That's another reliever that he traded
What
away.
about Dylan Lee?
Dylan Lee was the third reliever here for Eduardo Rodriguez right before the season started. So he did trade away three pieces from the bullpen. Did hang on to Jeff Hoffman, who's been good until he wasn't. Lately, he's hit the skids for the Blue Jays. That's been very disappointing. But as far as these trades are concerned, how do you think he made out this year?
I think he did fine. I mean, the Alvarez trade turned out to be pretty solid. The Adames for Pena deal ended up being solid. I don't think that was the issue. Um,
Which is a
a
good thing because we've seen him trade away his season.
For sure. I don't think that's what happened this year. That's to me, that's not what happened this year. I think he was just on the tough side of some really brutal matchups. I mean, in week 1, he loses to Mike Sherman, and then I think he ends up tying with him in week 16. Um, he had a lead on Jason Ashby most of the week, and by the end, Jason flipped it. Just some tough endings, and I don't know. I think it's very, very hard to win this league or compete without a deep bullpen. And that's something that he's kind of said, you know what, by the end, I don't really need it. He had a few closers going into the draft, and then all of a sudden he doesn't have any. So I don't know. I don't know what the thought process is of trying to like say, you know what, at this point, forget saves. I don't need it anymore. Let me go and try to target new things. But it's not a strategy that I would go by.
Okay. Let's move on to another team here in the hunt and a much more realistic picture here for Mike Haber to get into the playoffs. It's going to take a little bit of help, but the first thing he needs to do is he needs to beat his brother in week 22. The Haber matchup for Mike Haber's playoff life exists. Do you think he gets the win this week? Do you think Josh sort of backs away and goes, I don't need to do much. I've got the bye already locked up?
And that is a really tough question, man. I'm sorry that I don't have a definitive answer for you, but um it's firstly Juan Soto, who was on Josh's team, had an unbelievable Monday,
Mm-hmm.
just like practically a career game for the Mets. Um, so already Mike is kind of playing behind the 8 ball, but yeah, you're right. Josh doesn't really have much to play for. He's not gonna be breaking down his team in this matchup. He's really just gonna be setting up for the semifinals. So that's one benefit Mike has, that he knows that his brother isn't going to be very aggressive against him. So he's got that for going for him for sure. But I don't think Josh is going to not try, if that's, your question. It'll be a competitive matchup, I think. I don't see it being a very lopsided win on either side, but Mike obviously needs help. I mean, he can't just do what he's got to do. He needs help from Frank to beat up on Brian. He needs Jason to beat up on Henry. Um, and it's a tough spot to be in. It's tough to know that you don't control your own destiny at this point. So,
Mhm.
um, I hope Mike finds a way to at least take care of his brother just to give himself a chance. So, good luck to him. He's got the managerial skills to do it. I think he's got the roster to do it. It's the players got to do their part, and there's nothing Mike can really do about it. On Sunday last week, against Brian, when they're throwing all their pitchers and Brian's pitchers do what they do and Mike's do what they did, and that's what it turns into right now. What looks like a 5-game lead, and it's not insurmountable, but it's going to be a hill to climb.
No doubt, no doubt. It's going to be a very difficult hill to climb. How does he match up against his opponents this season? Because it's one of those things where we see Mike be a dominant manager in the past, and this year has fallen just a little bit short of expectations. You talked about always one upping yourself. This is a guy who led wire to wire week 1 to week 22 in the league just a few years ago. So, how does he one up himself? I don't think he's capable of doing that, and this is one of
No.
those regression years you see.
No, and look, on the hitting side and the pitching side, much like Frank, it's different here. So on the hitting side, um, Mike is 10-10 in runs, 11-9 in doubles, 7-4 in triples, 7-10 in home runs, 11-9 in RBIs, 13-6 in stolen bases, 6-14 with one tie in walks, which is very weird.
Yeah, that's
Seven
not like
fourteen
him.
in strikeouts, 9-8 in errors, 9-12 in average, 9-12 in on base percentage. Really weird.
Hmm.
Um, Weirder on the pitching side, though, man. It's 6-15 in innings pitched, 4-14 in wins, 10-9 in losses, 15-6 in saves, which is an awesome number.
Hmm.
16-5 in home runs given up, 11-10 in walks given up, 10-10 in strikeouts, 12-9 in ERA, 10-11 in WHIP, and 17-3 with one tie in WRAP. So the innings pitched and the wins obviously took a dip, but he's over 500 just by a little in losses, home runs given up, and walks given up. I think this is probably his most disappointing group of statistics here. The fact that he's not able to really stay strong on the pitching side, where on the hitting side he's pretty consistent.
Yeah. Only made 2 trades this year, one with his brother and one with Jason Ashby. His brother's trade was early on this season, back in April. He received Nico Horner and Jack Leiter for Ben Rice and Jonathan India. Ben Rice seems to be about the best piece in that whole group, but Nico Horner's having a nice year. So if it's 1-for-1, those two guys, because Jack Leiter's off of Mike's team and Jonathan India is certainly off of Josh's team. How you feel about that trade?
I didn't at the time. I didn't really think it was really just a like a league turner or anything. But
Mm.
yeah, I wondered myself if Ben Rice is a guy that should be moved or held on to, because there's so much to be said. Like it's the jury's still out on Ben Rice, I'd say. He's certainly got some pop. And then you can see him go through the cold streaks. So I don't know what to expect of this guy. Maybe Mike, being a big Yankee fan, was kind of like just apprehensive of it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. His other trade this year with Jason was a big bullpen swap. It involved Riley O'Brien, Sir Anthony Dominguez, Calvin Fauché, and Yenier Cano. Okay.
Yeah. Look, Mike is surprisingly, he's really not where I thought he'd be on a lot of the leading the categories. He's usually at the top with the ERA in the pitching categories. This year he's fourth in ERA with a 3.8. It's not bad, you know what I mean? It's
Mm-hmm.
just the expectations of us are so high of him. Is WHIP. He's actually on the bottom half of the league, for second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth to last with a
Hmm.
1.26 WHIP. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if that's really something to really analyze, if I'm really like just kind of making too much of it, but it's just something that I noticed. Um, right smack in the middle, basically, in home runs. He's got 192 home runs. Um, in RBIs, he's fifth in the league with 682. It's a pretty good number.
Mm-hmm.
Total runs, he is one, two, three, four, fifth in the league in runs, 663. Batting average, he is one, two, three, four, five, sixth in the league with a 258 batting average.
Mm-hmm.
On base percentage, fourth to last with a
Ooh,
322 on base percentage.
that's not like Mike. That's a
No,
really surprising number
yeah,
there, and probably speaks to why it's such a disappointing season this year for him.
maybe. I don't know if we're over, like, maybe over analyzing it. It has nothing to do with it, but it's just, I throw out these numbers and we can,
Mhm.
look at them and evaluate them as we do.
Yeah. Let's talk about Henry Collins because he's the other team that really needs some help but can definitely make the playoffs here. He's got Jason Ashby this week. So, first of all, he needs to beat him and beat him fairly substantially in order to make this thing interesting. And he also needs help from Frank Bucco. On his season, how will you break down this season from a guy who came into the league and took it by storm in the first 2 years making the playoffs?
Yeah, it's firstly those 2 years though, it was more like, wow, I can't believe that he's had so much success here. I can't believe that in 2024 he grabbed that last spot instead of me and Bobby who were going for it. But this year you you have a different look because now he's making more logical, calculated decisions, like I mentioned before.
Mhm.
Benching starting pitchers, um, assuming that a relief pitcher is least likely to come into the game and therefore he'll be benched instead of someone who's more likely to go in. Um, Finding the bulk reliever of a certain game so that he can get a relief appearance, things like that you didn't notice in the past, but now is very, very apparent. Henry's become a much better manager. He's one of those guys that you can't overlook anymore. So I give him a lot of credit just of being clearly a much better, more polished manager. Um, One thing I did notice about his season is that he is number one in the league in batting average and on base percentage. He has a 264 batting average, just in front of Mike Sherman, who's at 262. The next is myself at 259. So 264 leading the way there in average. And on base percentage, he has a 348 on base percentage. Second is you, Joe, at 339. So a 339 to a 348, it's a fairly substantial difference. The fact that he has a 264 and a 348, and that is with moving Ketel Marte and Stephen Kwan. So it just goes to show that he knew exactly how to fill those spots with other complementary pieces to help his offense. Very, very dangerous manager, very, very dangerous team. It'll obviously be a shame if this isn't the number 6 seed, but he has nothing to be ashamed of. He has nothing to hang his head on. He is really, really, arguably the most improved manager of the season.
Without question, he's absolutely put together a hell of a season. It'll be disappointing to not see him in the playoffs if, in fact, that is the outcome this year. But it's not for a lack of trying. He made three really solid trades this year. Got Bryce Terang for Jung Hoo Lee from Frank. Did get Mason Miller for Ketel Marte and Stephen Kwan from Jason. That one's a little bit interesting because Mason Miller did lose his closer's job when he got traded to San Diego and finished it off this season at the deadline, getting to Camilo Duvall from me, from Matt Strom and Chris Bassett. How you feeling about these three deals and what Henry was trying to do here?
I got it. I understood them all. It was the only one I think that really is the biggest head scratcher is the Camila Duvall deal because he made it after the Yankees traded for him, and his assumption is, look, I don't know if he's gonna get the save opportunities, but I believe he will get some. And by moving away Bassett, that's a guy that could be volatile. I'm not sure whether to start him or whether to bench him on particular days because he could be a hand grenade. So I'd rather not have that decision to make every fifth day. So that was the only one that I thought was a little bit surprising. But everything else seemed pretty practical. I mean, it's really hard for me to speculate before, like, on the deal until like you see it in fruition. But no deals that I really felt would unbalance the league or anything. So they all seem to be okay, I guess. Not really much to speak of.
I thought the Bryce Terang deal was pretty solid. He ends up with 17 homers and 22 stolen bases at this point in the career in the season with a 289 average. It's a pretty solid piece to get for Jung Hoo Lee.
Sure. Yeah. Jung Hoo Lee is not more than a bench player for Cody right now. Uh,
Exactly.
for Henry, as far as against opponents on the offensive
Mm-hmm.
side, 12-8 in runs, 9-10 in doubles, 3-7 with 11 ties and triples, 10-10 in bombs, 10-11 in RBIs, 9-12 in stolen bases, 14-6 with one tie and loss in walks, 14-5 in strikeouts with two ties, 7-13 in errors with one tie. So not
Mm.
really much of a defensive team, but like expected, over 500 in average and on base. It's 12-9 in average and 13-8 in on base percentage. So those are all solid numbers. On the pitching side, we got 13-8 in innings pitched, 8-11 with two ties and wins, 12-7 in two ties and losses, 10-11 in saves, 9-11 with one tie and home runs given up, 10-10 in ties and in walks given up, 10-11 in strikeouts, 10-11 in ERA, 7-14 in WHIP, and 11-10 in relief appearances. So obviously better on the offensive side, but
Yeah.
nothing horrible here on the pitching side. I mean, clearly there's a reason this is an over 500 team.
No doubt, this is a competitive team. It's been there all season. He's been in the playoff race each and every week, and every single week we watch this guy improve week over week, day over day. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Let's dive into Brian Lebo, man. I know you've been wanting to talk about this guy. He is your favorite manager that is not yourself, which is fantastic because somebody had to claim that spot after our beloved Uncle Barry called it a career here in the Bigs. So I'm glad to hear that somebody's taken that crown from you. He is currently having the greatest year since 2020 for him. Sits 20 games over 500, 25 back of first place, 5 up on the 7 seed for the final playoff spot. You think he's going to close it out this week against Frank Bucco?
Well, it's a 5-game lead, right?
It's a 5-game lead.
So in order for him to lose this, in order for him to lose it, either Mike Haber or Henry will have to do better than him by 5 or more.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what I will say is Frank is the most determined manager, whether he's in first place or 16th place. So that's one thing that's not so good for Brian right now is that you can expect Frank to use all 10 ads just because he wants to play that hard. So I will say that Brian has that going against him, whereas what like we talked about before, Josh doesn't have as much to play for against his brother, and Jason, who obviously is going to compete like hell against against Henry. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that he will. The thing is that if you look at what Jason has done this season against top teams, it is not really pretty. So, I mean, that's one thing I'm kind of concerned with for Brian is that the guy chasing him right now, one of the guys chasing him, is Henry. And unfortunately, Jason, I mean, if you look at what Jason has done against top teams in this league, it's rough. Okay. Um, First week against Mike Haber, week 1, 14-4 finish, right?
Mm-hmm.
Frank, who, isn't really he's not a 500 team anymore, but he was for a good amount of time. In week 2, 15-5 loss to Frank. Then let's go down to week 11 against
Week
no,
12
let's go to
against
week
you.
12 rather. Week 12 against me, 14-4 loss.
Mm-hmm.
Then we go to Josh, 14-6 in week 15. Then we go to week 18 against Jimmy, 15-4, followed by week 19 against Cody, 15-4, week 20 against Joe, 14-6. So that is some really, really lopsided losses against top teams. So, I mean, law of averages say Jason will find a way to beat a top team down the stretch. He has not yet. So if that happens, then yeah, Brian's good to go. But if Jason stumbles here and Frank plays his ass off and Brian's team doesn't hit, we could see the unthinkable happen in the final week.
We could. We could. How has Brian done against his opponents this year? Because it's been an up and down season for him. I'm thinking that it's going to be a lot of 500 numbers here.
Yeah, so actually it's pretty decent on the offensive side. 13-6 with 2 ties and runs, 10-11 in doubles, 3-8 in triples, 14-5 in home runs with 2 ties, 15-6 in RBIs, 11-8 in stolen bases, 9-10 in walks, 9-12 in strikeouts, 6-11 in errors with 4 ties, 9-12 in average, 9-12 in on base. Mostly good, mostly over 500. On the pitching side, 16-5 in innings pitched, 10-8 in wins, 10-10 in losses, 7-13 in saves with 1 tie, 9-11 in 1 tie in home runs given up, 9-11 with 1 tie in walks given up, 15-6 in strikeouts, 11-10 in ERA, 13-8 in WHIP, and 7-12 in RAP. Kind of a mixed bag, but lean towards over 500.
Mm-hmm. He made no trades this year, and he's really hawked that waiver wire. I look at the team now compared to what he drafted, and you're looking at guys like Augustine Ramirez, who's an incredible rookie for the Marlins, Jacob Wilson, an unbelievable rookie for the Athletics, and this bullpen, though it doesn't have one lockdown closer to speak of, is pretty solid. He's got Phil Maton closing games in Texas right now, and maybe he's got another piece in there that we're not thinking of right now. But this has been a really tightly kept team. He didn't trade off any pieces, but he's certainly done a good job of navigating the waters here, both offensively and pitching wise.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, if you just look at on the hitting side, he's fourth in the league in doubles with 245 and fourth in the league in home runs at 207. So he's stayed towards the top of the league in all this stuff. He's even fourth in the league in RBIs with 687. So he's maintained like being in the first, like the top 25% in a lot of offensive categories. That's probably a good reason why he's been pretty successful this year. Um, you know that in years past that Brian has really been a throw as many pitchers as possible,
Mm-hmm.
try to grab strikeouts, try to grab wins, try to grab innings. It really hasn't seemed like that's his thing this year. I mean, he is number one in the league in innings with
Mm-hmm.
almost 1600. Well, no, my mistake. It's 1549, almost 1550.
Okay.
In the strikeouts, he is wow. I take it back, man. He's second in the league in strikeouts, 1479. Um, so he's leading the league in innings pitched. He's he's second in strikeouts and in wins. Looks like he's in the middle, like eighth or
Mm-hmm.
ninth. So yeah, I guess
Where
he.
does he
I,
stack up
I
ERA and WHIP? Because again, if you go with that strategy, you're usually sacrificing ERA and WHIP.
Yeah, he's ninth in the league in ERA with a 3.95, which is not a bad number,
It's not bad at
by the
all.
way.
That's not bad at all. To have that many teams under a 4, that's great.
Yeah, actually, it's I didn't even realize it until I'm looking at it now. WHIP is better. WHIP, he's second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth in the league in WHIP with a 1.23, and that's the same week. That's the same WHIP as fifth place and fourth place,
Okay.
123. Costas has a 123, as does Frank. So they're fourth, fifth, and sixth all together. So yeah,
Nice.
I mean, pretty solid. The fact that has an under 4 ERA, um, with all those innings pitched, with all those strikeouts, it's actually surprising. But goes to show that the decisions he's making on who to throw, even though he's basically throwing everybody, seems to be the right call. And I don't, I mean, I haven't really followed his team so much as far as the in and outs and who he's flipped in and brought out, but I do know that there have been like some like lethal hitters like Wilson, Jack Wilson's son on Oakland
Mhm.
really carried him for a good portion of the season. And he was just one of those guys that would just collect so many hits. I feel like James Wood was a guy that started him off in the right direction. So that was big as well. Ramirez, of course, on Miami is having a breakout year. Chisholm had quite a few slumps, but he's come along lately. What
Mhm.
I told um, what I told Brian during a certain part of the season when he was kind of frustrated with how it was going was what I said to him, I go, dude, I know it's frustrating now, but the schedule does get easier. And I told him this after week 12 when he played Henry, because it was one of those crazy matchups where it was on Sunday, 13-8 Brian, and then all of a sudden 12-8 Henry. And they just kept on going back and forth. It was one of the awesomest matchups we've had this season in week 12. And it ended up going to Henry 11-10 in the final. But I told Brian, I go, do not worry. The schedule is going to get easier. I promise it gets easier. And then all of a sudden in week 13, he beats Mike Sherman 15-6. He beats Jason 11-8. He beats Ari 16-5. He ties with Chris 9-9. He loses to me 12-7. And then he goes 10-8 against Bobby. He loses 10-9 against Costas. He wins 12-9 against Josh. And then, of course, the 13-6 against Mike. But for those few weeks, those weeks against Mike Sherman, Jason, Ari, and Chris Levy, he goes 15-6, 11-8, 16-5, 9-9. So he's 9, 12, looks like 23 over 500 for those 4 weeks.
Mhm.
Can't get much better than that. And that was the difference in his season, is taking care of business in those 4 weeks. Even though there were 2 ties against Chris Levy, which is just weird, but he didn't lose to him and he made this work.
Yeah. He's had an unbelievable season. He's vastly improved his game over the last couple of years, and we're happy to have him here in the playoff hunt and perhaps sitting at the playoff table when all is said and done. Buddy, it's time to talk about my team and see how I've done this year. How do you stack up my team versus years past?
Well, I mean, you're doing basically the same similar strategies as you've done in previous years, which is try to find what team in baseball you think will be successful and trying to get as many guys from that lineup. And it seems to work out for you. This one was the one where we thought, you know what, maybe it might not work because the Braves were so awful, but they've turned it on as of lately. So that's been a benefit to you. Um, as far as against opponents on the start on the pitching side here. Um, 9-12 in innings pitched, 15-4 in wins, 10-8 in losses, 6-11 in saves with 4 ties, 10-9 in home runs given up, 8-12 in walks given up, 13-8 in strikeouts, 10-11 ERA, 12-9 in WHIP, 13-7 in relief appearances.
Thank you very much. That sounded pretty damn good.
Yeah, I mean, aside from the saves thing, I mean, we know you
Yeah,
didn't draft a closer, so I I mean, that's not anything surprising. On the offensive side, 9 and 10 in runs, 8 and 13 in doubles, 7 and 5 in triples with 9 ties, 11 and 8 in homers, 12 and 8 in RBIs, 5 and 14 in stolen bases, 17 and 4 in walks. That's a great number.
Thank you.
13 and 6 with 2 ties and strikeouts, 10 and 7 in errors, which I like. 9 and 12 in batting average, and 12 and 9 in on base percentage, because you drew as many walks as you do, so you're probably winning on base percentage more than you're not. Totals, trying to see where you stack against opponents as far as you're third in the league in homers with 209 to Josh, who's at first. Adam is in second. But you're number one in the league in RBIs, and it's by a lot.
Really?
714 RBIs leads the way. Adam is second, and his number is 696.
Oh, I have
So
an
yeah,
18 RBI lead. That's a whole week.
that's a lot, man. It's a
Yeah.
really, really, really big number. So I very much credit you for that. That's a pretty substantial lead in RBIs. Now, as far as batting average, you are fourth to last in the league with a
Ooh,
253 batting average. So,
it's a
so
little
I
better
mean,
than league average, but yeah, that sounds disappointing.
yeah, that's not your usual, but on base percentage, second in the league with a 339, only to Henry at a 348.
What
So
about walk totals? How many? Where do I stack up in walks?
walks, you're second in the league. Henry has the most in 500 with 566. You're next with 548. And then the next is Cody at 507. So you have 41 walks more than third place. So there's a
Henry and I
pretty
are walking our way to the playoffs, one way or the other.
yeah, substantial difference between second and third there.
Mhm.
So that I give you a ton of credit for, man. That's a lot of freaking walks. Um Now strikeouts for pitchers.
Mhm.
One, two, three, four, five, sixth in the league.
Okay.
Uh, Home runs given up, fifth in the league as far as the least amount, so that's pretty
Mhm.
good. Um, Losses, just out of curiosity, losses, you're great. Fourth in the league with 78 losses. That's fourth best.
Nice.
And then wins, you are fourth in the league with 99. So pretty consistent all around, dude.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I drafted a team I thoroughly enjoyed. You know, stacking all the Braves and stacking the Dodger guys early in the season was the plan. The Dodgers machine hasn't gone as well. The Braves machine worked at least decently in the second half. So it's carried me this far. Only two trades on the season. We talked about Matt Strom and Chris Bassett for Camilo Doval. The other one was Dansby Swanson for Spencer Torkelson. Just more straightening out the way that my team will be structured, and Jimmy was doing the same and getting rid of some dead weight and picking up somebody that we can plug into the lineup every day rather than benching and utilitying these guys. That's it. I mean, team's been pretty solid. I've liked where I've been. I've been in, the playoff hunt all year. I don't think I've fallen out of a sixth spot since like the picture really came into focus.
Yeah, no, maybe you were seventh or eighth at one point, but never
Yeah.
further than that. I don't think you were ever really an under 500 team. Maybe right
Mhm.
around there, maybe a couple games under. But yeah, you've kind of hovered around 500 most of the year until you kind of took off these last few weeks. Really, the to me the turning point of the season for me at least was when you played against Henry, and Henry had a 12-7 lead, I think, at a certain point on Sunday, and then I think you were convinced that there was no way that you could really topple him by the end of the day, and you ended up winning the thing 12-7. And to me that was the turning point of the season, because let's say Henry does win that thing 12-7, with you getting 21 home runs that week, That would have been tough to come back from. I would say if that's not the turning point of the season, then it was the fact that Jason Ashby batted something like in the 270s against Cody and still lost by like 11, and then
Mhm.
had to play you next week after having all the good stats. And I told you, I said, no, I don't care that Jason just lost by a bunch. That doesn't mean that he's going to win by a bunch the next week, because he had his hot week and he still lost by a bunch. He had all these great numbers. He was doing great in home run. I think he even beat Cody in home runs out of all things. But like
Yeah. This was
he
only a couple of weeks ago. This was a huge moment for Jason, was losing that big. It pretty much put a stamp on his season that he was done,
yeah.
and Cody was really going to be gunning for that buy spot. We'll talk about him here in a minute. After that win, I sort of took off. I
Yeah.
had Ari and Levy on the schedule, or Ari and Levy to finish out the schedule here.
Yeah, just to clarify, it wasn't 270, it was 279 average for
Oh.
Jason that week. That lost to a 305 batting average. His 341 on base percentage lost to a 363. He had 12 home runs. He had 29 RBIs but lost to 33. He had 36 runs but lost to 37. He had 12 doubles but lost to 16 doubles. Um, he had a 2.45 ERA, but lost to a 1.21. He had a 94 whip, but lost to an 83 whip.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these are numbers that would have stomped out over half the league that week. And after I saw those numbers and that he couldn't win better than he couldn't do better than 15-4 that week, I just knew there's no way that he could come close to those numbers in the following week, man. And he didn't. And you only needed to do semi better in order for that to work out. And yeah, if it's not that week, it's the one against Henry. But like in those two matchups, you solidified your spot for me.
I am certainly happy to make it 12 years in a row in the playoffs. It's an honor and a privilege to be in the league, and it is an honor and a privilege to represent all of the managers here in the playoffs.
Mm.
I don't know how far I'm going to go. I have an 8 straight to the semis run here on the line, so I'm going to have to do one more week of really good management against whoever I match up against.
Yeah,
We'll
whether it's
see
Cody or
what that is.
Jimmy, whether it's Cody or Jimmy, do you have a preference on a manager you would rather face?
Jimmy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is there a reason?
I think Cody's a tougher matchup for me.
Just on the roster.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Because
Yeah.
like I mean, Jimmy is going to grind it out. You know what
No
I
doubt.
mean?
No doubt. But yeah, I think I want Jimmy in the first round.
Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, that following week after Jason batted 278, did I say 279?
279.
Yeah, the following week he batted 216 and his on base percentage was 296. Like I just knew it. I knew it was so hard to come back from that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I give you so much credit, man, because I think it's fair to say that 12 years running in the playoffs, and it's who knows how long it can go. I'd be surprised if anyone can get to like 9 in a row ever again. It's just such a there's so much randomness that needs to happen in order for there to be so much consistency.
Mm-hmm.
And 2013 now feels like a long time ago, the last time you missed it. It's just, I mean, you think about a dozen years. I mean, the league has only been going on for 21 years. So now you've covered over half of the time we've been in this league to just being in the playoffs. There's something to be said of like, man, has the league gotten too easy for you, or like
If
do
the
you
league
feel
was
like it's
too
got
easy for me, I would have half a dozen or more championships. I haven't won a championship in a full season since 2018.
okay? And the league was very different then. The
Yeah.
competitors were different. The rules were different. So I like to think that the the that has become more challenging. You figured out a way to feng shui through it, but there has been more of a grind with
Oh
10
yeah.
ads versus 14 ads or versus 13 or 12 ads, like the 10 ads, the 42 innings versus 27 or 34 or 37. These have made you have to adjust your game a little bit. I've seen you take more losses than you would have in the past. You lost to Ari last year. You took a loss to Mike Sherman this year. So I
Yeah.
do think that there's certain things, there's a little bit more randomness that can happen because of these little rule changes.
Yeah, no doubt. This has been an unbelievable year, and it's another unbelievable season for the Bigs. I'm happy to again be a part of the playoffs and to be. I don't want to call myself the standard here, but it's one of those things where I expect to make the playoffs every year now, and we're just waiting for the year that I don't. And I thought it was going to be this year. I really did. I didn't think that this team was going to be as good as it has been. It's not a juggernaut by any means. It's certainly not. I think it's championship level, but we'll have to wait and see for it to see how well it
Yeah.
goes.
Look, you didn't think you were going to make it in 2021 when all
Nope.
those injuries happened. You didn't think you were going to make it in 2023 until you won like 11 in a row or something and you ended up with the bye, you know? So it's
True.
so it's such human nature to think the worst is going to happen. You hear it on sports talk radio, you hear it amongst your friends. Oh, the Yankees are done. Oh, the Mets are done. And at midway through July or early August, like it's just so easy to magnify a losing streak, or
Hmm.
even if it's 20 games, you know, because it's still it's a small chunk of a season. And yeah, our big season is shorter than a Major League Baseball season, obviously, but even when you're in a losing streak, and I was, I always talk about 2019. I lost 15-4 and then 11-7. I ended up in first place after 22 weeks. This year, I started by losing 3 out of 4, including real quick 11-7 to Bobby, and then again to Brian Lebo in week 2. And it's like, okay, I'm starting with a losing streak. It's not easy mentally to come back from, even though it's just 2 weeks, and it's hard to look at the big picture and say there are 20 weeks to go. But it's just, it is such human nature to expect the worst. And I'm at a point right now where it's like, okay, the bye is in my grasp. All I need to do is not lose by 9. Easier said than done, but we've seen crazy lopsided losses. We're looking at them
Hmm.
all over the schedule here. It happened all season. So absolutely, it's possible it can happen. So as far as like other people looking in and saying like, "Oh, no problem. You got this. Oh, this guy's definitely in the playoffs. Oh God, this guy's definitely out." It is still very, very intense for me. Like getting through this week is extremely intense. And I believe that Brian Lebo right now has not started celebrating yet. There's nothing that has been penciled in, or anything that's finite. He needs to finish the job here. He
Yeah.
really needs to find a way to beat Frank or to do good enough that it's better than Henry and Mike Haber by 5 games. So I'm sure for him right now, these 6 days, he is sweating it out.
Oh, I don't think that that's not the case at all. I think he's going to be grinding every single day. He's got a hell of an opponent in Frank, and these two guys are not going to give up. They're not going to give up. They're not going to make it easy, and that's just the way this big season is. It's just the way this league is. Let's move on to Jimmy Dunlap and talk about his year because he has had an incredible season as well. Only making one trade on the season with me. We just talked about it a few minutes ago, so we won't bore you with that. But the team has been a pretty solid piece here for the entire year. He had to fill the first base hole that he lost early on. Did lose Corey Seager here for what looks like the rest of the year because of the appendectomy. And on the pitching side, it's an interesting rotation with Paul Skeens at the top and not a whole lot else, but he's managed to find some pieces. Trevor Rogers has been great lately. Hurston Waldrop has been good lately. Brady Singer put in 7 innings, I think, the other day. It's a really solid core, and this is a manager that is not going to be an easy out in the playoffs.
He's amazing. He's a former champion. I think he was very disappointed with how last year went. He drafted Ronald Acuna at number 1. We all know how that went, and it was really tough for him to recover from it. And he was trying to spoil out trying to beat teams like Jay Ferraro at the end of the year. He just couldn't do it. It was a struggle for him, but I called that this team was going to be in the playoffs at the beginning of the season. I called that
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy would find a way in, and it just came to if he could find a hot streak at the right time, and he did. He started beating teams by a pretty good margin. He beat Bobby really, really good in the beginning of the year in week 7. So that's kind of what started to propel him. And I think once he dominated Jason, we were like, okay, looks like Jimmy is in.
Mm-hmm. It's been a really good run for him lately. He's on a 5-game winning streak currently and a 6-game undefeated streak since losing to Adam in week 15. So he's definitely getting hot at the right time. How's he matched up against his opponents this year?
11-9 in runs, 11-9 in doubles, 5-7 in triples, 5-12 in home runs with 4 ties, 9-12 in RBIs, 6-11 in stolen bases, 10-11 in walks, 12-9 in strikeouts, 9-9 in errors, 12-9 in average, and 11-10 in on base percentage. There's nothing like really substantial where he's like crushing his opponents in one particular thing. Everything's around 500.
Yeah, sounds like he's playing to the matchup and getting what he can out of them most weeks. So offensively, he seems to be just around 500.
Yeah, it's much more clear on how strong he's been on the pitching side. Ready for this?
Uh huh.
14-7 in innings pitched, 10-8 in wins, 8-7 in losses, 2-15 in saves. I mean, we know he didn't really go for bullpen this year.
Mm-hmm.
11-9 in home runs given up, 14-7 in walks given up, 12-9 in Ks, 17-4 in ERA, 18-3 in WHIP, and 15-5 in WRAPs.
Yeah,
Just
so he's
those last 3.
he's
17 and
getting rid
4
of
in
saves
ERA.
and he's doing that. I mean, that's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah. No, I can't expect it. It's really amazing. 17-4 in ERA and 18-3 in WHIP, 15-5 in relief appearances. Like, dare you mess with this guy against in the pitching stats right now? It's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely going to be a very, very hard out. But you know what? I want the smoke. Give me that smoke. Give me that first round matchup against Jimmy Dunlap. I want it.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I'm trying right now just to see where he stands like in general as far as his totals go, but
Mm-hmm.
stand by.
Standing by.
Um okay. So he is second in the league in ERA to myself. I have a 3.28, but he has a 3.33 ERA.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where he's there. And then as far as WHIP goes, he's second also to me. I'm at a 1.12 and he's at a 1.15. So that makes a ton of sense.
That is a great whip, Benjamin. I want to give you credit right there. That is a great
Thanks.
whip on the season.
Yeah, thanks to my bullpen mostly.
Mm-hmm. It's been a wild season. Jimmy definitely making a comeback this year after a down year last year and looking to get back toward title contention. He's going to be a very, very tough out. I'm very concerned, but let's see what happens in the first round. Let's talk about that next match or the next manager here. He is the third place manager at this point. It is Cody Pyatt, as he is going to be staring down the gauntlet of facing you here in the in week 22, and then potentially either myself or Brian Lebo or someone else in round 1 of the playoffs. He's had an interesting year, my friend. Let's talk about it. How does he stack up?
As far as against opponents on the offensive side, it's 7-13 in runs, 10-10 in doubles, 7-3 in triples with 11 ties, 10-9 in homers, 9-11 in RBIs, 11-8 in stolen bases, 13-8 in walks, 9-11 in strikeouts, 11-7 in errors, 12-9 in average, and 12-9 on base. Basically over 500, but
Yeah,
nothing that like really jumps out.
nope. Nope. On the pitching side, how does he stack up?
12-9 in innings pitched, 12-4 with 5 ties and wins. That's good. 8 over 500 in wins. 8-8 in losses, 8-9 in saves, 12-7 in home runs given up, 15-6 in walks given up. 11-10 in strikeouts, 13-8 in ERA, 13-8 in WHIP, 9-12 in relief appearances. He's been doing a lot of his winning with pitching.
Yeah, it seems that way. Seems that way. Three trades on his season this year. He got Xavier Edwards for Kevin Gossman from Frank. He got Michael King and Devin Williams from Costas for Trey Turner, and that's probably the worst of the trades that he made this year, considering Devin Williams' struggles and Michael King's injuries. But he
I mean, the
also
old
traded
Jordan Alvarez deal is. I'm sorry.
is
Go ahead.
atrocious.
I
Yeah,
didn't.
no, it was made in May, and he just came back from that hand injury he was nursing at the time of the deal. So he missed out on what is that, 3 months worth of this guy for Ian Happ and Nick Castellanos. It was an interesting deal at the time, and it's even more interesting now given Jordan's extended absence. However, this is Jordan Alvarez. He is healthy now. He's ready for the playoffs, and he could end up carrying Cody at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I did notice as far as on the total side, that Cody is second to last in the league in doubles. 203 doubles is second to last. Mike Haber leads the league with 251. And then on the pitching side, I mentioned how I was number one and Jimmy is number two in ERA and WHIP. Well, Cody is number three in ERA and WHIP, 3.6 ERA and a 1.17 WHIP. And then fourth place from Cody, who is actually Mike Haber, it goes from a 3.6 ERA to a 3.8 ERA, and WHIP goes from a 1.17 in Cody to a 1.26 WHIP. So it's a fairly big jump between third and fourth place there.
No doubt. No doubt. And that really is the separator between the top three best rotations and staffs and the rest of the pack here, because that's a very obvious and glaring gap.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, best of luck to him here in the playoffs. So let's move on to your team, buddy, and talk about your squad that you've put together. It's been a very interesting squad. How do you feel now, 21 weeks after this squad?
I feel the same way, honestly, that I felt after, or even in the middle of that nice little undefeated streak I had. I really didn't understand why it was succeeding as much as it could. I didn't have Bryce Harper, um, for a good chunk of it, and it's not like Bryce Harper's even having an extremely explosive year. I'd say that he's having to Bryce Harper standards, maybe a little below in certain categories, but
Okay.
um, I just didn't really think that there's much to this team, offensively on the pitching side. I feel like Christopher Sanchez and Ranger Suarez are two guys that have kind of held their own and being like the backbone, and Nate Eovaldi, who was, injured for some of it, but at some point when I had Eovaldi, Sanchez, and Suarez, and those three going as my horses, that carried me a lot of the way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so having those three guys, a solid enough bullpen, that's probably the reason I've been doing as well as I could. Because like when you look at the offense, I mean, he's had Nimmo's year has been like this. You
Oh
know what I
yeah.
mean?
Oh yeah.
Last year. And Arise, his numbers are down. The strikeouts are great. I think he has like 15 or 16 strikeouts all year or something, but
Mm-hmm.
not batting over 300. He's batting in the 280s this year. Arenado, I mean, I dropped him eventually. He was just useless. Tovar injured for a good chunk of the year. Um, Byron Buxton, I pulled in what in week four, week three rather. Um, Joe Adell in the last few weeks has become my right fielder. Carlos Santana is basically at the end of his career. He's had a disappointing year. I can't really even begin to tell you like why this team has been as successful as it has. Um, Sure, I've done some things during the week to grab a stat here and there, and maybe that's gotten me a little bit closer. But I honestly, I almost feel like, and this is the crazy thing about fantasy baseball, where something can be really overlooked, and they'd be like, "Wow, Ben's team is really good because they're winning so much." Well, that could be the case, but it also I could just be like in a good circumstantial situation. It's just like I guess like what I'm trying to say is there have been times where I was just fortunate to be facing an opponent at the right time where they were cold. You
Hmm.
know, I never faced a team until this past week. Oh, there goes one of the things
There
we need
goes
on.
the mats.
There goes the mat. Here I'll set it this thing there.
There you go.
That works. Um, I felt like this was the only matchup, the one against Jimmy, where I was facing hot hitting and hot pitching at the same time. Like
Mhm.
other than that, like a team was either faltering on the hitting side or on the pitching side so I could capitalize on one. Like this was the first week where I was dealing with it on both sides of the ball. So like when I look at it that way, I was just fortunate. Like I just don't even necessarily think the team is as lethal as it looks on what the record says.
Hmm. Well, you made 3 trades on the season, all of them before opening day. None of the
Yeah.
guys are left on your team that you collected in the trades, so it's not
Yeah.
even worth
Goes
mentioning.
goes to show how critical my trades really are for the league.
Yeah, not a
They
single
really
piece that he collected before opening day is left on the team at this point. So again,
right.
not all that incredible. Against opponents, my friend, you are probably tearing the cover off the ball because you are the type of guy who does play to everyone's weaknesses each and every week. So no matter who it is or what it is, you're going to be playing pretty much to whatever the opposition gives you. You're
Yeah.
5-12 in runs scored. You're 11-10 in doubles. 6-3 with 12 ties in triples. Home runs. Where did it go? Oh, home runs. You're 6-12 with 3 ties. RBIs 9-12. 5-13 in stolen bases. 10-10 in walks. 20-1 in strikeouts. Well done, sir. 20-1 on the
Yeah.
season in
Yeah, I
strikeouts.
think that's how I mean that's usually how I build the team is around guys that don't strike out a lot, guys like Arise, guys like Arenado. Yeah, once I see that a guy is not on that trend, I know he's not my type of player. Like even
Mm.
Carlos Santana has always been pretty decent with walk to strikeout ratio.
Oh
So
yeah,
yeah, makes
yeah.
a lot of sense.
Finished it out 14-5 in errors, 14-7 in average, and 13-8 in on base percentage. You absolutely killed it, man.
Yeah. Yeah,
The
no, I think I
offense,
did as far as
the,
against opponents. Yeah, like
mhm.
just knowing how to win that particular stat. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a testament to your roster construction ability and your ability to play toward whatever you're given.
Mhm.
Your roster construction certainly does lend itself to not striking out very often, and everything else. I mean, look, you're doubling up on batting average and on base percentage. Like it's a well-oiled machine. It's the machine that was built to do exactly what it's doing.
Yeah, it's just the players still have to do their part. So
True.
I'm fortunate that, for the most part, they did what they had to. I think a big part of what's worked out for me is that I waited on starting pitching, and the guys that I picked up in Sanchez, Suarez, Evaldi, who went fairly late in the draft, they probably won't next year, but like
Mm-mm.
those are guys that I felt like I got extremely good value in the draft for.
No doubt. Christopher Sanchez is now the Phillies ace at this point.
Yeah.
So I highly doubt he's going to go as late as he did this year. On
Yeah.
the pitching side, sir, 7-14 in innings, 8-12 in wins, 13-6 with 2 ties and losses, 17-2 in saves, 12-6 in homers, 16-4 in walks, 9-12 in strikeouts, 11-10 in ERA, 14-7 in WHIP, and 15-6 in relief appearances.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
dominant team on the pitching side.
Yeah, no, very, very. This makes to me, this makes a ton of sense because like innings pitched, wins, and strikeouts all under 500, right? 7 and
Mhm.
14, 8 and 12, 9 and 12. But losses, I make up for it with 13 and 6. Home runs given up 12 and 6. Walks given up 16 and 4. And then my ERA and WHIP are over 500 and RAPs are 15 and 6, saves 17. So like whatever I'm taking losses in, I'm able to kind of work my way through with the wins.
Yeah, the bullpen is absolutely dominant here with 17-2 in saves and 15-6 in relief appearances. It's crushing your opponents without overwhelming them with innings and
Yep.
strikeouts.
Yeah.
Yep. The bye is just this close, sir. You need to get 7 this week in order to guarantee the fact that you will not lose that bye. So
Yeah.
I know you're nervous, but I think you've got this, buddy.
We'll see, man. The players have to do their part. I'm gonna have to do some things on my end, but we've seen crazier things happen than a lead like this get blown. So I have not at all been able to sleep comfortably knowing that I don't have to do anything next week. But man,
Mhm.
if I don't, next week is going to be special. I'm going to have the week of my life if I can get through this because after you put in as much work as I and I'm not any different than anybody else who's really really grinded out and put in the amount of work. I mean, you know how many times I've stayed up till 3 a.m. and made moves right then and there. There was a time where I even
Mhm.
had 3 devices with me at once to make sure that no one else takes my guys. So um I'm pretty much at the point, man, where like I need a mental and physical break from this. So if I could somehow get through this week with the bye, I think I'll put myself in a really good position. And here's the thing. If I don't get a bye, I don't think I got a shot. But if I do get the bye, I do believe there is a good shot. There's such a difference between having that automatic spot in the semifinal and having to grind your way through 3 matchups. The last guy to have to get through 3 matchups in order to win it is Jimmy Dunlap in 2022. Joe, I know you did it in 2020 when we had 8 in the final in the playoffs. And then I believe you had to do it in 2018 and 2017. So it has been done. It can be done, but the level of competition has risen so much. The talent of the managers has only increased in the last 3 years that I just, if you got to go through, if you to win 3 matchups in a row in our league, 2 of them are going to be against lethal managers. So
Mhm.
it's just that much harder this year. So if I can get through that bye, man, I'm going to be one happy camper.
And that'll bring us to our defending champion, man. He is sitting in the top spot. Very, very well done in defense of his championship last year. It is Josh Haber, 1 in a million, and the man has gotten himself to the promised land. He is also locked into a playoff spot, and more than likely, unless some sort of ridiculous blowout happens with his brother, and that would be detrimental to a lot of other teams. I think we all just want to. I think the teams vying for the playoffs want to see Josh take care of business and then take a week off.
Yeah, for sure. Um, it is nothing short of remarkable for someone to win a championship and then come back the next year and not only make the playoffs, not only make the bye, but solidify in the number 1 spot going into the playoffs. I mean, I don't know if that's ever been done, you know, that someone wins a championship and then follows it up by being first place going into the playoffs. It's
Mm-hmm.
amazing. I mean, this is clearly the best manager in our league right now. Um, and has just found a way to get through weird loss. Like he lost to Costas this year, and I think he lost to um he lost to Mike Sherman this year. Like he's taken losses to guys you're just like, what happened? Didn't matter because the wins, he's stomped out quite a few opponents. So amazing on the offensive side, 14-6 in runs, 10-8 in doubles, 4-9 in triples, 14-6 in home runs, 14-7 in RBIs, 10-9 in stolen bases, 11-9 in walks, 6-14 in strikeouts with one tie, 11-8 in errors, 13-8 in average, 11-10 in on base. So besides triples, if you even count that, the only under 500 stat is strikeouts at 6-14.
Mhm.
Everything else is over 500 amongst the offensive categories. A lot of it has been Soto and Schwarber leading the way, but Josh has made savvy ads through the way, and he's found a way to get stats where, through free agency, um, plugging in certain guys here and there. He's kept the core the same, but there have definitely been contributors along the way that aren't even on the team anymore.
Yeah, no doubt. He's certainly turned over this roster enough times that we see the greatness that is this season from him. 4 trades on the season this year. Offensively, he got Josh Bell from U for Randall Grichuk before the season started. Doesn't matter. He got Ben Rice from his brother. Again, that was for Nico Horner. He got Brendan Donovan back from Jason late this year at the deadline, or toward the deadline anyway, for Brandon Lau and Garrett Whitlock. And the big pitching acquisition was also from Jason. He got Framber Valdez for a solid package of players, including Nick Pivetta. Pretty savvy, pretty damn savvy. He got Brendan Donovan back, who's now on the IL. Ben Rice has had a nice year. Framber Valdez had a nice year. So those 3 pieces that he got from these 3 trades really pushed him toward this championship. How's he doing on the pitching side?
Well, first I was trying to see if he like kind of led the way in anything, and it's believe it or not, he really just he hasn't. He's not really leading, but yeah, against opponents on the pitching side, get ready for this: 11-10 in innings pitched, 6-10 in wins with 5 ties. Now, 10-5 in losses with 6 ties, 13-2 in saves with 6 ties, 14-7 with home runs given up, 11-10 in walks given up, 13-8 in strikeouts, 13-8 in ERA, 12-9 in WHIP, 16-4 in relief appearances. So, besides wins at 6-10, he is over 500 and by a good amount in some of these, like home runs given up 14-7, strikeouts 13-8, perhaps 16-4, but only one under 500 stat, and that's wins. So, what are we talking about? We're talking about wins, strikeouts, and triples are the only stats that he's under 500 against opponents. That's why this is the first place team. I mean, that is
Yeah.
a crazy statistic. Out of 21 stats to be 18-3 against your opponents. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how you beat that.
I don't know. It's going to take a down week from Soto and Schwarber at the same time in order for that for there to be a bounce out in the playoffs. I certainly like his chances to go back to back, be the first guy since me in 2018 to do it, and it's pretty nuts. I mean, it's pretty crazy that he's gotten this close, and now he's just 2 wins away from a back to back championship.
All right. So after a little bit more research, he's leading the pack right now in home runs with 226 home runs. Second place is Adam with 225, and third place is you, Joe. Here's the thing. You said 225 is second place. You're at
Mhm.
third with 209.
Oh,
So that's a fairly big jump, man.
yeah.
I mean,
That's a whole week's worth of homers right there, like
more,
very
more,
easily. Yeah.
more.
Two
I
weeks
mean,
worth of
probably two
homers.
weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's third in the league in RBIs with 691. Like I mentioned, Adam is second in 696. You're in front with 714. So, um, yeah, he's staying basically in front of the charge there. Um, Batting average, fifth in the league with a
Mhm.
258. Um, on base percentage, fourth in the league with a 335. I'd say that's pretty solid.
Mhm.
On the pitching side now, if I just go into the ERA, 7th in the league in
All right.
ERA with
Middle of
a
the pack.
383. And then in whip, 8th in the league in whip in 125. Goes to show, I mean, on the pitching side, you really don't need to be at the top of the league to be dominating. You just need to beat up on your opponents, which is what he does. He finds a way to win against the particular opponent. And I think that strategy has worked well. Counting out how many he needs in order to get 8 stats, 9 stats, 10, whatever it is. But I think that he's able to evaluate what's winnable and losable late in the week.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think he's going to be the toughest out in this playoff matchups. It's going to be a wild ride, Benjamin. We are just this close to the playoffs. How do you feel about the season as a whole at the 10,000 foot level? Like, how do you feel about this season as a whole compared to other seasons?
Um, it's had its ebbs and flows, but I feel like we've all learned a lot. Not just on an individual standpoint, like our own um development as managers, but I think we've kind of started to see more trends of certain managers and just how the league is balanced. Um, where the league obviously needs improvement. Like we talked about, the trade situation certainly needs to be looked over
Yeah.
again and
Mm-hmm.
trying to find a better solution. But no, I think it's been a strong season. I don't think it's been as competitive as last season. I think 2024 was, as far as like the group of managers, short of 2021, I think 2024 was the most competitive season we've ever seen. We took a little bit of a dip in competition. We had certain guys that weren't there for the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there are certain guys that obviously have a lot to learn about how the game is played, and I think there we've struggled a little bit. So on that note, it's been a little bit disappointing. Not that it's been a disappointing season. I think it's been very exciting. The race was really awesome. I was listening to the podcast you guys did yesterday. How Jason was talking about we had a great race until it wasn't a race anymore, and then all of a sudden, like in 2 weeks, it kind of rewrote the ship in another direction.
Mm-hmm.
And although there's still a chance for something miraculous to happen, I think we could have potentially something really crazy happen in the final days of the season. It hasn't had the same kind of suspense down the stretch as we've had in other seasons, but it still has been like a really nice season, a lot of surprises, um, a lot of fun Sundays, a lot of can't believe that just happened moments.
Mm-hmm.
So in that regard, I think it's been a very successful season, and something to build off of.
I can't wait to see what happens over the last 3-4 weeks here in the bigs this season. Can't wait to see what unbelievable managers have up their sleeves for these final weeks. Benjamin, thank you so much for being here with me, my friend. I appreciate you.
It's a pleasure as always, Joe. Congratulations on another wonderful season doing this podcast in the bigs. No one does it like you, no one does it better than you. And you are the one who has put the bigs on another level by creating this podcast and made it something meaningful to it. Besides just what we see on the computer, we get to listen to you, we get to watch you, we get to see everything come into fruition. You give the whole thing a whole new level of intensity. So, congratulations on what looks like another playoff berth and a wonderful season on the Bigs podcast. And it's the Bigs podcast. So, thank you so much for what you bring to the table. It's been an amazing year. Thanks again.
Thank you guys so much for watching, listening, and being a part of this league. We would have nothing without you guys. So thanks again so much for being here. Until next time, guys, it's been real. It's been fun, and it is always real fun in the bigs. We'll see you next time.